with your host, nationally acclaimed speaker and author, Debbie Georgatos. Ladies, Can We Talk starts now.
Well, hello and welcome to Ladies Can We Talk. This is Debbie Georgatos. For those of you who listen every week, you just heard our brand new music. I'm going to talk with you quite a bit about that a little later in the show, but we're so excited in Ladies Can We Talk. We've changed the music throughout the show, and I'm going to tell you more about the singer and her family and her husband. Her husband writes the words, she does the singing. It's just phenomenal. Krista Branch is this singer, and I just think this music so ties in well with what our show is all about, which is Ladies Can We Talk, where all issues are women's issues and we talk truth about America. Well, tonight we have just another great packed show. I'm hoping to find time to tell you about my trip to Washington, D.C. this past week. Just an amazing trip. I met some just real activists in the conservative side. Can't wait to tell you about that. And we do have, in this first hour, we have a guest calling in, Charlotte Hayes. She's with the Independent Women's Forum. I quote their research often. I post it on our Facebook page quite often. She's going to share with us a couple of interesting things the left is trying to do to make life fairer for women, but from the perspective of mere common sense or facts, make no sense at all. So we'll talk with her. Charlotte Hayes is wonderful. And the second hour, we just have a friend of our show named Suzanne Blackstone, who right now is attending the presidential debate happening in Dallas right now at the Prestonwood Baptist Church. She's going to call in around 7:15 in our second hour and tell us, kind of just give us her basic impressions of that. So the show is going to include those two. We're going to talk a lot about the Democrat presidential debate, which I watched every single word of because I do Fox News Radio political analysis also, and I had numerous interviews the next morning where I had to talk about the debate, so I suffered through it. I have a lot to share about that. My second hour buddies, my leading ladies joining me are Chris Davis and Mari Sullivan, and we're going to just talk a whole lot about what's happening in America, in politics, and as I always try to do in this show, how it relates to you, why it matters to you. So this first segment, my Speak Up for America segment, I want to talk about the Democrats' debate. And you can actually go online and read the entire transcript. I do not advise it, but you can do that. And I guess I want to really focus in at the moment on Bernie Sanders. He is the second in place in the Democrats' race for the president, Hillary being in the lead. We're going to be talking about Hillary a little bit later. But what I want to talk about with Bernie Sanders is this. He is the first openly in the current generation, or this generation currently, he is the most successful socialist candidate for the presidency of the United States. And Bernie Sanders stuck true to his socialist principles in the debate. And, you know, I could spend a lot of time talking just about plain old money. I'll tell you that among the things Bernie Sanders is promising in a Sanders administration is free in-state tuition for people who entered America illegally, forced paid family leave for people who need to take a break from work, free health care for all children, free public universities and college, free childhood education, a higher minimum wage, free Obamacare subsidies for illegals, expanding Social Security, free health care for all, expanding Medicare for all Americans. And I raise all that to say this. He's promising a lot of free stuff. Most of us learned decades ago in other contexts that there is no such thing as a free lunch, that someone actually purchases the food, prepares the food, serves the food, and so someone pays for everything. In fact, when the Wall Street Journal tallied up Bernie Sanders' promises in his campaign for president, or his socialist promises of free everything for everyone, they came up with a figure of $18 trillion over 10 years. $18 trillion. But this isn't really the point I want to get to. It's ridiculously expensive. That is the same size as our entire American national debt, is what his new programs will cost taxpayers, $18 trillion. But I want to hit on something that's more important than that even, and that has to do with the impact on the American culture and economy and society, the American spirit of turning this nation further into socialism. We're there a little bit already, or maybe a lot bit. We have things going on in our economy that are socialist. But what would happen to America as the outcome, what President President Sanders would bring to America would be so destructive of everything abundant and good and prosperous about America. I remember as a kid or as a young adult actually having the realization dawn on me that just because people are elected officials, just because they happen to win an election, just because they happen to hold the title of president or member of Congress or senator, does not mean they actually are wise. It does not mean they actually have good values. It does not mean that they are right in everything they say. It doesn't mean that they don't hold crazy ideas as their opinions. And that's where we are with Sanders. I want to tell you quickly something about Sanders before I go on to the self-reliance thing. Bernie Sanders, after the debate, a couple days after, he appeared on two television shows that are both really kind of left-leaning hosts. One was the Ellen DeGeneres show. Well, first of all, I'll tell you that Sanders danced himself out there. You could go see the YouTube. They had music playing at the start of the show, and he danced. He's in a suit and tie and trying to be cool and dancing around. And he sat down with Ellen, and she, of course, is, clapping and yahooing. And she said to him, I'm so glad you're running. Really appreciate you. And she said, I'm glad you're speaking about income inequality. It's such an important issue. There's something so wrong in this vast inequality. Now, Ellen DeGeneres is, as you might imagine, she's in the top 1%. She's a very, very wealthy and successful person. But then she said something that I just found astonishing that a left-wing person would admit. Ellen DeGeneres said, I grew up in a lower middle class family. I mean, at best, we were middle class. And she said, I worked really hard for 25 years to get to where I am today. And then she said, I want other people to have that opportunity to work hard to get to where I am today. Now, I want to put a comma there. Ellen DeGeneres just made the conservative argument. Because conservatives are agreeing. We'd love to have everybody be more prosperous, to work hard, be successful, achieve, chase your dreams, be a success, and be rewarded for your success. This is the America Ellen DeGeneres has lived in, and she found that success. And she is, for many people, a great entertainer. She's funny. People like her show, I guess. I don't know. I don't watch it, but some people do. But the point is, she's making the case that Bernie Sanders' ideas are crazy. So I'm going to put a comma there and turn then to Bill Maher, late night, extremely liberal comedian host, also had Bernie Sanders on. And I urge you, we're going to put a link up to this on our Facebook page, on the Ladies Can We Talk Facebook page. But Bill Maher took Bernie Sanders to task also about his plans. And essentially, Bill Maher said, what are you talking about? How could you possibly pay for all these things you're promising? And Sanders seemed stymied or just shocked that this left-wing host would actually challenge his left-wing ideas. So Sanders tried to answer and say, well, health care for everybody, it'll be cheaper because right now it's so inefficient. But once the government pays for it all, it'll cost less money, which of course makes no sense at all. And Bill Maher said, hey, well, it didn't work in Vermont. It didn't work at all in Vermont. And so Bill Maher, to his credit, came back point after point after point and just said to Bernie Sanders, everything you're talking about is impossible to pay for. And your answers make no sense. Your calculations make no sense. I urge you to read the Wall Street Journal calculation of what this Democrat presidential candidate Bernie Sanders is claiming to promise for free, because Bernie Sanders is at 25 or 30% in the polls. Now, everyone is saying, well, he's second place, and that's okay because Hillary probably going to win it. Maybe Biden will get in. In fact, we're going to have a segment later talking about Joe Biden and some of his latest statements, the likelihood of his getting in the race. But I want to get to the real nub, the real Speak Up for America point in everything I'm saying about Bernie Sanders. The reason America is the most prosperous, abundant, wealthiest nation on earth, the reason we are the source of the advances in civilization almost since the founding of our country. We are responsible for the growth in understanding in the sciences and the arts and technology, in space flight, in every arena you can think of, is because of free markets and the incentive the individual has to work hard and dream and pursue their desires, their dreams in life, achieve and hold on to their money. If the government told you you're going to be hired for $100,000 a year, but you're going to pay $99,000 a year in taxes, you wouldn't work. Neither will anyone in America taxed at the rates Bernie Sanders would have to do to pay for these programs. And even if he could confiscate wealth from the wealthiest, which he'd be perfectly willing to do, that wealth does not exist in the abstract. It exists as the result of the hard work of the American people. And businesses and individuals and even corporations are just people. Businesses and corporations are people. They work hard, those people work hard to make businesses successful because they get rewarded. If the government takes your reward away, the businesses aren't going to have any more money and any more incentive to work than the individuals will. And this gets back to this beautiful thing, well known around the world, the beautiful idea of Americans have that self-reliant, can-do American spirit, and it's inbred with free markets and freedom. And, Bernie Sanders' idea of keep on promising everything everyone needs for everyone for free, a friend of mine just actually walking into the show was making the comment, why don't we just get rid of all wages and salaries in America and just have one big 50-state commune? Everyone will work hard, we'll spread the money around, everything will be fair. That is the natural outcome of the Bernie Sanders lunacy. The idea there's no point in connecting hard work with reward. And if you sever the connection between hard work and reward means being paid well and keeping most of what you earn, people won't work hard. And this is something actually most economic students figure out if they actually attend university classes where true free market economics are taught. They all know this. Bernie Sanders is a left-wing, far left. I mean, he doesn't use the word communist because he agrees there need to be two parties, a Democrat and Republican Party, but what he's proposing is so outlandish that other Democrats in the race, other Democrats in this country should be denouncing him. But they're not. And here's the final point. They're not denouncing him because Bernie Sanders is creating an angry, envious, demanding class of Americans who think America owes me everything. He's creating a massive victim class, which is the entire power base, the entire voting base of today's Democrat Party. Hillary is no different. She finds ways to sound slightly more reasonable, but she's right down that same path with him. Democrat politicians today cannot function without angry, helpless people looking at America and thinking the way our country really is, the only way out for me is forced government redistribution of wealth, and that system will destroy the wealth and the wealth-creating incentive and the can-do American spirit throughout this country. And folks, that's why this race for presidency is extremely important. It's your job to stay informed, to stay engaged, and to keep on speaking up for America. And do not let anything like what Bernie Sanders thinks get anywhere close to our White House. Barack Obama's pretty much there. He's been a little bit softer than Bernie Sanders is talking. He hasn't done everything he wanted to do, but our country's in a bad path already, led by President Obama's policies. Our job is to right this ship in the next election cycle, and that means get rid of Bernie Sanders thinking. This is Debbie Georgatos in 660 AM The Answer. Ladies, can we talk? Stay tuned. Right after the break, we'll come back, and we're going to tune right back in talking about America and the greatness and the goodness of America. And I'm going to share with you a little bit what's happening with our clock boy from Irving, Texas, and his latest adventures in the world. You won't believe it. Come on back after our break.